Hello friends, I am the Assistant Dean and Head of Department for Chemistry for VMC Medical, and I am making this video to discuss specifically a chapter called Some Basic Concepts of Chemistry, right? And what has been the pattern of this chapter, in the past 10 years of NEET so far, right? The analysis has been done on a very micro level note, right? So the important part that we discuss here is not only going to be what all areas we have seen questions coming from this chapter, and in addition to that, what all areas we have not seen any questions coming. So on the whole, if you look at this chapter, then let me just give me a moment and I can screen share, right? Great. Now if you look at this chapter on the whole, I can clearly see the fact sheet. Fact sheet suggests that if you look at the number of years from 2013 to 2021, right, there has been one question in 2013, two questions in 2014, then one question in 2015. Now this can be more of an anomalous figure because 2015 we had a repeat paper, right? Although we had a repeat paper in 16 also, but in 15 the repeat paper was within just about 1 month's time. So there's a possibility that this number can be actually said to be little anomalous, and not in agreement with the pattern. And then 2016 and 17 we see no question coming from this chapter. Then 2018 the pattern is back to something like 2 questions, then 1 and 1. In 2021, 2020 and 2019, we have seen only one question coming from this chapter so far. So if you look at this analysis of these 10 years on the whole, I can suggest that there is an average of one question, coming from this chapter. At times, the two numbered figure of 2, might be, more of an overestimate. So let's go on further. In 2013, we got one question coming from this chapter, and you can look at this question. It's a very simple question, which is not based on any titration. It's based on simple concentration terms. It's something which is related to calculation of moles and then calculation of concentration. So it's a moderate level question. I won't say that it's typically very easy, but it's a moderate level question. And you look at these questions which came in 2014. One is from the limiting reactant concept, and the other is from simple mole concept, that is volumetric aspect of moles of a gas. Okay. In 2015, we noticed that this is once again simply based on, common mole concept of gases. Like a mixture of gases contains these gases in the ratio of 1:4 mass by mass. So mass by mass will be, simple calculation of moles. 2015, we get 5 questions. But if you look at these 5 questions, one is based on simple atom molecule calculation. One is based on the Avogadro number, right? This is simply based on a limiting reactant concept. So far we have not seen any question from titrations or equivalent mass or, the last part of stoichiometry, or everything has been from the earlier part, right? This is one question on 2015 repeat paper, which we see on concentration terms, and same goes with this. This is concentration terms which is mixed with limiting reactant. So if you look at these 2 questions, I can see that most of the portions of these questions have come from the earlier part of mole concept and not the latter part. The earlier part includes, topics like mole concept relating to gases, calculation of atoms and molecules, laws of chemical combination, or, Avogadro's number, atomic masses, right? And portions such as limiting reactant concepts and basic reaction stoichiometry. But we have not seen anything coming from the latter part. The latter part would be equivalent masses, gram equivalents, and titrations or titrimetry. We haven't seen. 2016 and 17, we did not get any question. Once again, if you come to 2018, you look at these 2 questions which have come here. One is again calculation of atoms and molecules, which is, I guess, one of the simple areas of mole concept. And the other one, which you see here, is totally based on general reaction stoichiometry. So what I would suggest is, particularly in this chapter, you go for the earlier portion of this chapter, which is actually the simpler portion also. This is number of moles of hydrogen produced, hydrogen required to produce 20 moles of ammonia. Once again, based on simple basic reaction stoichiometry, nothing which is very outstandingly, difficult to achieve. which has maximum number of atoms. I think this is perhaps one of the most easy portions of mole concept, and I think one of the most achievable as well. I don't think there is any reason to fear this chapter, right? If you look at this analysis on the whole, I don't think there is anything where you think that the chapter is not achievable. And last but not the least, we've got one question in 2021 from empirical formula, which I think for most of the students is something which you learn in much earlier classes, even before 11th standard. So very achievable. If you ask me, I will rank this chapter also. But I want you to just see my general remarks on this chapter. There is an average frequency of one question per NEET chemistry paper every year. So I don't think it's something, which is outstandingly too important. So my overall chapter rank will go rank 2, right? Rank 1 will be a very important chapter. Rank 2 will be important. Rank 3 will be less important. Rank 4 will be the least important. But you cannot have any chapter where you say that this chapter is not important. Of course, so I think that's pretty understood. So average frequency is one question per NEET chemistry paper, except for 2 consecutive years, 2016 and 17. We have seen a question from this chapter in all papers. 2015, if you look at this portion, where I have mentioned this, had an unusually high number of questions, but I neglect this as this was a repeat paper which was made under urgency. So it was just a paper which was designed within 1 month's time. So I would regard that number 5, for the 2015 paper as being more of an anomalous number. When the original paper had leaked in 2015. This haste in designing the paper could have led to this unusual number, right? So if you neglect the 2015 repeat paper number, then an average of 1 question per NEET paper is what I can clearly see. Now, what all areas have been covered in these questions? Calculations of atoms and molecules, I will take rank 1 because I've seen most of the questions coming from that side, and reaction stoichiometry, which includes yield of product and limiting reactant, right? So work more on these areas of reaction stoichiometry and calculation of atoms and molecules. What pattern we have seen in the past 10 years, pretty much the same is something which you should be seeing in coming NEET exams as well, right? I have seen one question from volumetric concentration terms, but even that is yield with product yield and empirical formula. So if you take this chapter in sum total, I will go with the, particularly 4 strong areas, right? Calculation of atoms and molecules, reaction stoichiometry, do some concentration terms, right? And empirical formula is not something which you'll particularly or typically have to do because that's something which you've learned from, much younger classes. Overall questions are easy to moderate, right? We haven't seen any very difficult question coming from this chapter, not seen any tough question coming out. Practice is the key to doing well in this chapter. Solve more questions in the areas that I have stated above, right? And note the fact that we have not seen any question. I'll just put this here as well for you. We have not seen any question coming from areas like titrations or equivalent mass, direct questions on equivalent masses or volume strength of hydrogen peroxide. And that should be it. I'm like, if you look at this chapter, the more focus is on the earlier part of the chapter than on the latter part. So very important to know what you have to do and what you have to read and where you have to lay more impetus than to just merely do the chapter on the whole, right? So this will probably, this analysis will help you, in more selective kind of study and study which is more focused. So that should be my submission on this chapter for mole concept, right? Believe me, friends, this chapter is very achievable. So I don't think that you should be losing on this chapter. There is 1 question per chapter on an average. So I don't think that should be more of a difficulty, because if it's not coming from a difficult area, then I don't think you should lose onto this chapter. So just simple practice of some stoichiometry, limiting reactant concepts, and earlier gases, mole concept related to gases, calculation of atoms and molecules is something which is, I guess, very, very achievable for most of you people, I guess. If you ask me, you should not be losing onto this chapter, right? All right. Thank you very much. Hope this helps. Wish you all the best.